UOBAM. I'm Amanda, your host and moderator for today. Learn at UOBAM is an initiative launched by UOB Asset Management to empower people with financial knowledge with all walks of life. As this is the month of International Women's Day, we are hosting a special edition for all the ladies in the house. And for all the men here, thank you for joining us. Please give yourself a pat on the back. I'm very excited to have our guest speaker, Ms. Angela Khoo, Senior Editor of Dollar and Cents and co-owner of Sirene Pole Studio with us today. She will be sharing with us her journey to financial literacy and how that has eventually helped her to start up her capital for her first business. So just some housekeeping items for us to take note. Chat box is available if you have any connectivity issues, whereby you can raise them to our Zoom host. Click on the Q&A icon to ask questions throughout the whole session. Click on the like button to upvote questions raised in the Q&A session. Please note that this is a public webinar, so it will be recorded. Right, so the agenda for today is as follows. Introduction to UOB Asset Management and UOB AM Invest, followed by a fireside chat with Angela, and we'll end off with a Q&A session. So a quick introduction for those who are not familiar with us. UOB Asset Management is a leading asset manager in the region, and we have an investment experience of more than 30 years. UOB AM is wholly owned by UOB, one of the strongest banks in the world, and is currently present in 10 markets in Asia, with the latest addition being Vietnam. With more than 90 investment professionals managing our client assets, we have close to 39 billion assets under management as of 31st of December 2021. Most recently, we have also been awarded both Asia Fund House of the Year and Best Asset Management House Singapore, and for that, we are very proud. At UOB AM, our purpose is to create value for our investors, not only for them to achieve their goals and aspirations. Our vision is to be a trusted asset manager, but also one that's leading in innovation and sustainability. Our four core pillars is as follows. Number one, keeping customers at the center. Two, embracing our Asian heritage. Three, a focus in sustainable investing. And fourth, being in the forefront of digital innovation. So what is UOB AM Invest? Incorporated in 2018, we are a robo-advisor that helps you build customized portfolios that's based on your risk tolerance, investment objectives, and investment horizons by leveraging on our 30 years of investment expertise. It provides investors a hands-off approach to investing, so you no longer have to worry about making rash decisions, watching about market, unsure of what to invest in. This platform can do it all for you. You can start investing as little as $1 or have the flexibility to change your goals along the way. Withdraw investments at any point of time. We have a little refer a friend promo at the end of the webinar that we'll share with you. So for those who have just joined us, welcome again. To be honest, when I was tasked to host this International Women's Day edition of the webinar, I wasn't quite sure what topic we should touch on because there are just so many. We have come a long way from being the days where our only label is being reproductive machines. And for that, we have a lot to thank all the courageous women before us that, have paved the way for us. As women progress in society, we not only find ourselves with higher academic achievements, but also higher earning power. We all want to be successful, but what exactly does being successful mean? So I thought before we dive into today's topic of the webinar, which is achieving business success, I thought we all can have a little discussion on what does success means to every one of us. Let us ponder over that and key in our thoughts in the chat box. So does it mean to have a career or to have a family, to be able to balance both, or to pursue your passion, to publish a book, to have the corner office? Right. So don't be shy, just key in your thoughts, we can share it. This is a safe space. So perhaps to start off, I'll just share mine. To me, being successful is having the ability and freedom to choose my path in life. And because we live in Singapore, where the cost of living is so high, that freedom often comes with a cost. And having financial stability is a means to an end for me to achieve that success. So let's see if there's anyone that's keying in. It means to live a fulfilling life. Okay, you know what? I think it's actually quite a tough question. It actually took me a day or two to ponder about it. So I think probably it's a tall order for us to think about it and key in our answers in the last 2 minutes. I'll be happy, healthy, and enough for livelihood. Yeah, that's very true. Work-life balance. Financial freedom. Thank you for everyone that participated. Thank you for sharing. I think inherently success means differently to everyone, and clearly success is relative. How we deem someone as being successful does not necessarily mean the same for another. And particularly for us as women, of the many expectations that we carry, and being the role of a natural caretaker, it becomes an even more complex question. So without further ado, let us welcome our speaker for today. Angela defined her own form of success by pursuing her passion of starting a pole studio in the midst of a pandemic. She is also being an editor of Dollar and Cents in her day job. She'll be sharing with us her journey to financial literacy and how that has enabled her to start up a business and for her to start her own capital.
Thank you, Amanda, for having me.
Hi. One sec, let me just stop sharing. Hi. Thank you for today. Perhaps to kick things off, you'd like to do a short introduction of yourself.
Okay, sure. Yep. So hi everyone. I'm Angela, the editor at Dollars and Cents. So if you have actually came across the website, Dollars and Cents is a personal finance website, and maybe you have seen some of my articles on saving, investing, and things like buying a BTO and other personal finance related topics. So what's a bit different about me is that I actually don't have a background in finance. So I didn't do accounting, business, or any finance related topic. My major was actually in psychology. So that was what my degree is in. And before I joined Dollars and Cents, I was actually in public service. And during the pandemic, I actually made the switch from public service to joining Dollars and Cents. And on top of that, I also started my own pole studio during the pandemic.
Wow. Could you share with us why that transformation happened? Because not only did you have a career switch, but you also started your own business on the side.
Okay, so the career switch didn't happen because of the pandemic, actually. I was already contemplating a move away from public service. So was considering how to transit into private sector. But I didn't really expect to join the finance industry. So I didn't really think about joining writing or media. And it just happened that I was just looking around for other possible areas in private sector. And it just happened that the pandemic happened at the same time. And so it was a case of not really knowing what to do and just looking for options. And it just happened that one of my colleagues, one of my friends was actually working for Money Smart, which is another finance blog, right? And she told me that there was an opening, and I was like, okay, sure, let me try it out. And in a way, the switch was unexpected, but I also kind of hedged my risk So I actually freelanced with dollars and cents first. So like before you do a career switch, you're always like you're very uncertain, right? So freelancing helped me like figure out actually this is something that I'd like to do. And that's when I joined them full time.
Wow. I didn't know the freelancing part.
Yeah.
That takes a lot of courage to do that. And you
Yeah.
actually mentioned that you didn't have a background in finance.
Mm.
So how do you end up being like a editor writing for dollars and cents? Like how the journey of your financial literacy? Maybe you can share that with us.
Okay, sure. So I've always been very interested in finance, personal finance, not corporate finance, but personal finance, because I'm very conscious about how money affects our daily lives, right? So like my family background wasn't very well off, so it started off quite. Like I remember like in my childhood, McDonald's was a treat. It wasn't something that you go to every day. So it was like, only once in a while, it's a special occasion.
Yeah.
And that kind of um I guess that kind of scarcity made me very aware of how money affects things. And in my childhood, my parents did inculcate in me the habit of savings, but they never really taught me beyond that. So it was like I didn't know what to do with my money once I saved it. I just
Right.
kept it in the bank. And then so as I grew up, I was like, hey, I started off reading books. So books like maybe The Millionaire Next Door, Rich Dad Poor Dad, and all those finance bestsellers.
Right.
And from that, but then those were very US centric.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was very little information about how you would start investing or start building out your finances in Singapore, because at that point in time, there wasn't that much resources. Then
Yeah.
okay, then the internet came about. Wow, there was so much information out there. And then so I think I started off mainly looking at personal finance information from point of view like how to save, how to budget. But once you have actually gotten those steps down, right, you know how to save, you know how to budget. And then that's when you start moving on to other things like what do you do with your money, right? How do you grow it? So you start thinking about investing. And once you start investing, you start about thinking about stocks, whether you should. And then I think as people age also, you start having to make big financial decisions,
Yeah.
right? Things like, do you buy a car? Do you buy a house? Do you plan for your wedding? How do you save up for your children's education? All these things starts growing. And I mean, given the internet today, there's so much resources that we can tap on to just learn more about all this information. I mean that's why we have our website, dollars and cents. Come and read our information.
I hope your boss
I
is
mean,
watching this.
yeah,
Oh,
I mean,
shit.
it helps that I'm writing, and as I write, I also learn. So it's a never-ending learning process. Like, so it starts from like very little things like, very simple things like, oh, we must save how much of our salary, how do we budget, and how much we spend, and how much should we save. And then from then you start thinking about how to grow that amount.
Right. Actually, my story is actually very same as you. Like, we grow up. Okay, I wouldn't say that we are so old, but but I mean, we grow up being taught to save. But
Yeah.
then, all the years of saving where we could have been investing in something, like 10 years down the road with all the compound interest, we should be really rich now. But we actually lost the like 10 years, of
Yeah.
saving where we could really be investing. So probably if you can you share with us what did you first invest in with all the money you have saved? The first thing that you did.
What did I first invest in? I think I did a very, very boring investment where I invested in STI.
That's not
Yeah, so
that's
I
not
mean,
bad.
for those who don't know, the STI is the Straits Times Index, which is a collection of the top 30 companies in listed on the Singapore Exchange. Yeah, and I think from that, I belong. I mean, for me, I didn't want to like at that point I was like a new investor, so I didn't want to think so hard and figure out which stock to buy, which company is the right choice. So by buying into index funds, it kind of like allowed me to buy into a basket of companies. with a single investment, right? And from then I branched out into like US stocks and US S&P 500. And I remember one stock that I did buy, and that's Nike. Yeah, so I bought in at Nike, I think a few years ago when they
Okay.
weren't as big as they are today. Yeah, and I
Right.
bought it in because I liked the brand. I researched about it, and I thought they had a lot of strong growth potential because at that point, it was before sneakers became the new luxury good, you know.
Right.
So yeah, but you could see that people were very interested in streetwear already, and I thought, hey, this is a brand that I like, and I do have shoes, so why don't I just buy the stock instead of buying shoes?
Right. So you started off with like investing in more passive
Yep.
index funds, and then you branch out to like stocks. What are the other things that you did? Because I guess to start up a business, you had to have your pool of startup capital. So what actually inherently got you to that?
So actually, my startup capital is actually my own personal savings. So, I mean, I save a significant portion of my salary every time. And over time, I set aside a sum for either investing or to be my housing deposit.
Right.
Yeah. So, when I decided to start my studio, it was a case of taking a portion of that money from this sum of money that I already set aside for investing or for my housing deposit and using it to start my business. Because it was a case of I know that I wouldn't buy a property so soon because I haven't hit the age requirements for HDB. And so I had time to rebuild my savings again. And so I just took out a portion of it to start my business. But equally, it meant that for all this time, I have been conscientiously setting aside a sum of money for investing and for savings.
Mm.
Yeah.
Is that the an advice that you give to not just women but people these days to set aside not just for savings but also in investing
Yeah,
a portion
definitely.
of the
Yeah.
salary,
I
right?
think it's the case of you should pay your future first. So you should always set aside your savings for your future. So out of your savings, it could be a portion maybe for holidays, but also for your long-term future. So things like your future housing purchases, your retirement, right? So those will need to be invested because those are very long horizon. If you just keep it in your bank account earning, I think it's not even 1% now. You're not gonna, your inflation is, but I think last year is already 2-3%.
Right.
Yeah, your money is just gonna be eroded by inflation. So you have to start investing, especially for the amounts that you project that you wouldn't is for long-term needs. Yeah.
Right. What are some of the articles that you write about in dollars and cents that you can share with our audience today? That is
There are a lot of articles that we write on dollars and cents, right? So some of the things we discussed are like using your CPF, how you can use your CPF to plan for retirement. So like a lot of people complain about CPF being lock out your money to 65, but there is an advantage to it. It means that you can't anyhow spend your money, so
that's
you know that
true.
money will be there for your retirement. So if you actually have a substantial CPF savings and it goes into your CPF life, at 65 you get a monthly payout every month for the rest of your life, and that is sufficient to see you through retirement. If you are quite not a very big spender in your retirement years. Yeah.
Right. So
So
in terms of CPF, you mentioned about CPF. There are a few options that people can invest their CPF and their SRS account in. Is that something that we can, hit on to dollars and cents to read up more about
yeah,
it?
of course. You can, we talk about SRS, we talk about CPF, we talk about robo-advisories, we talk about index investing. We also discuss things like buying a HDB, how much salary do you need? How
Right.
much do you really need to plan for? Yeah.
So what's your thoughts on robo-advisory? Is interesting that you mentioned, and I guess you have written some articles about it, and that sort of like ties in with today's UOBAM Invest. What is your thoughts on it?
It's actually a very good instrument. I mean, like all instruments, they are all tools that you use, right? And how good or bad is really how you use them. From my perspective, robo-advisors are really suitable for especially beginner investors because you don't really need to think or be very caught up in like the nitty-gritties of how to invest. The robo-advisory helps you decide, and they
Right.
advise you in terms of like, I mean, they usually typically will have an assessment where they tell you what's your risk profile, and then from then they will tell you which portfolio is suitable for your risk profile. And these things are much simpler now with robo-advisories compared to the era where you had to go and sit down with an advisor who may or may not know you very well, and maybe you don't feel very comfortable sharing that information with, or that you have too much choices in that there's too many options in different funds, different companies that you can invest in, and then you get all muddled out because there's so many choices.
Right. Actually, that's how I feel about robo-advisor. Like even myself, I invest quite a bit in index funds like and some other ETFs, but I still get the I still get a bit sensy when the market is not doing well, because I feel that maybe I should just take it out, or maybe I should just, even if I don't want to take out my investments, but I still feel that no one is really looking after what I'm investing in except myself, because I'm the one doing it. So I feel like in terms of that, if I put it with a robo advisor, I know that someone is managing that portfolio in a sense.
Yeah.
So do you yourself actually put some money in robo advisors?
Yeah, I do. I
Yeah.
set a portion aside in robo advisors. You mentioned just now about the feeling that kind of pressure when your investments don't do well, right? And I think right now, today, especially now with the Ukraine war and everything, I think a lot of people are seeing their portfolios in the red and they are getting a bit panicky.
Yeah. Today is better. Yesterday
Yeah,
market
today is a bit better. I think there's a little bit
yeah.
of green.
The last few weeks not as good.
Yeah, but I think in general, what robo advisors help you with, and I think it's a general investment principle, is that the time in market is better than timing the market. So what do I mean by that? So timing the market is like, oh, you want to buy high, you want to sell. You don't want to buy high. You want to buy low, right? So it's not timing. Oh, maybe this is the lowest point, then I buy. But maybe it's not. You don't know. The truth is that even the best investors in the world, including Warren Buffett, doesn't know when's the best time to enter the market. But what is important is time in the market. So it doesn't matter whether you're buying high or buying low. As long as you buy and invest your money, over the long run, the stock markets have shown to definitely give you long-term returns.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like maybe 10, 20 years later, even if you had bought the high at the peak of the market, 10, 20 years later, you would have gotten a better return than putting your money in a bank, or I mean just spending it, right? So that's the thing. So in general, always remember time in market is better than timing the market.
Yeah, I think that words are gold. I believe the same thing as well. So I think in terms of time, I think we are a bit running short. Maybe you should go to the Q&A session. I see some questions from our audience right now. Okay. Okay. How do you see the market now, given that a lot of stocks are at bargain basement prices?
Yeah, I do think that right now the market has kind of dropped a lot, and if you have the resources, it might be a good time to considering entering the market. But bear in mind that this is not advice, because no one knows when's the lowest point. So again, we go back to the point that time in market versus timing the market. as long as you are buying and investing in a company that you believe in that has long-term potential, or in the case that you don't know how to pick a stock, you invest in index funds, it should provide you long-term returns over the long period of time.
Right. I kind of agree. Actually, I have a personal question. Okay,
Sure.
actually, I was posted this question from one of my friends. So say if the market is sort of like, I wouldn't say it's bottom lah, but it's not doing as well right now. If the person has $50,000, right? They actually have a sum of money. What do you think they should do with it?
There's two schools of thought, right? So one is that you invest it all at once,
Right.
or the other one is what they call dollar cost averaging, where you basically put a small amount of regular amount over a period of time.
Mm.
I'm a personal advocate of dollar cost averaging because firstly it means that you don't need a large capital. You can put in a small sum every month, and maybe like a few hundreds from your salary every month, set it aside for investing, and then you just invest that amount every month. Because dollar cost averaging allows you to ride out the volatility in the market. So that sometimes the market's very high and you're buying a bit more expensive, but because you're setting a fixed sum, you don't spend beyond what you can, right? You don't invest more than you can. But in other times the market is low, that same amount actually buys you more units of the stock or the fund that you are buying into. And so over time you actually average out the price. And it's a very easy way for people to start investing, because once you automate it, you don't really need to think much about it. Every month it is deducted from your account, it's invested, and you only start to look at it at the end of your time horizon, which is maybe like for retirement. Then you look at it, oh actually I've collected so much over this period of time. The other way is lump sum investing, which is when you just decide, you're just going to enter the market at this point. That is also a valid way of investing, and I think some research papers have shown that lump sum investing actually over the long time horizon will do well, because in general the markets perform better over time.
Right. Yeah. Thanks. Very insightful. I'll relay that to my friend. Okay, we have another question from Rita. Question is, as a woman in business, what are some challenges you face which you think that men in the same situation do not encounter?
Business and wow, what does men not encounter? Okay, that's a tough question. I think that challenges in starting a business in that, especially for women, you are likely to face the feedback that okay, firstly, women tend not to discuss business with other women. Yeah, so it's like how women tend not to discuss finances, which kind of disadvantages us because we don't know who around us is a good role model, who can mentor us, because we lose out in that area. Whereas with men, they tend to always talk about businesses, talk about business ideas together. And so it's very easy for them to find mentors in that sense, because people are aware that is what they're doing.
Right.
Yeah. And then it's easier to find that mentorship because, maybe this guy knows this business, he has started this business in this industry. Why don't you talk to him? And because we as women, we don't put ourselves out there as like, hey, we are interested in starting a business. This is the industry I'm interested in. It's very hard for people to connect you because they don't know that's what you are talking about. That's what you're thinking about. Right. Yeah. So I think that's one area where it really differs for men and women. In terms of other things like just the raw entrepreneurial challenges, I think it's similar across there's no gender disparity in that sense. Because in the end, entrepreneurship really depends on your business and the type of business that you're running. And for myself, biggest challenge I find was managing my time,
Yeah.
because I have a full-time day job, and then I have my pole studio, and the biggest challenge is that I ended up having to rely a lot on my partner,
Right.
my business partner, to help me run the day-to-day operations.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, I still have to step in, like like after work, I have to like reply all my Instagram DMs, and because that's where we run most of our business inquiries through. We have to film like social videos for social media just to push it out on our channel. And then things like very basic things like cleaning the studio. You would think that running a pole studio, you can pole a lot, but no, that's not true. Most of the time I go to the studio and I'm just doing the cleaning. I'm doing cleaning, disinfecting. It's very
Right. So
operational.
yeah, I can imagine. So just some like behind the scenes story for the audience. When I just first approached Angela, I didn't know that she has a business of a pole studio. So when she started telling me that she has a pole studio, I'm like, what? Because I myself did pole dancing a couple of years ago. So I was like, wow, so you can actually dance all day. Then she's like, no, there's a lot of things that we need to do for our business. So maybe you want to share with us a little bit about pole dance and pole dancing, how that empowers women. Share a bit of your business to us.
Okay. I think one maybe the point I want to share is like how I started the business, because I think
Yeah.
most people don't really think about starting a pole studio business. How it started was because during the pandemic, I think all the studios were closed, right? So there's very little space that we can exercise in. And then there was a lot of so for pole dancers, it's like if you don't train, you immediately start losing your ability to do certain tricks, because it's a very strength-based exercise. Even though people think that it's just a dance, there's a lot of skills and strength needed. And if you don't maintain that workout, you would lose that skill very fast. So a lot of girls started buying poles to install in their own homes. But then they run into problems where like, they start banging into the furniture, banging into the wall, because in general, most of our homes are HDB flats and they are kind of small, right? And it's not like we just have a dedicated room for our pole. We have, it's basically a bedroom, a living room, or a study room. Like that's
Actually, I was one of those people. I bought a pole to install in my house, and then I realized that there's no space.
Yeah, the moment you swing your leg out and there goes the furniture.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was
So
when I realized, that was when I was thinking, hey, actually people need a proper space,
true.
And at the start of the pandemic, the office rents were plummeting because people were not going out. I mean, people are not going to work, right? And then the rents were actually quite low, I would say. So that was the point. Hey, maybe there's an opportunity there, because I could rent the space, I could refurbish it to be a studio, and then rent it out to the girls, and I mean whoever wants to come and practice. And because at that point the existing studios, they do have practice slots, but they were constantly filled up because firstly there was a lower capacity, and I guess the demand was just much higher than supply. So I felt that there was a gap in the market, and I did the calculations, can I afford it? Can I afford to rent the business, even if it's not making money? And I just decided to take that leap of faith that that there looks like there is market demand. The other thing is also I look at international markets. So in Hong Kong, private pole studios were actually quite common. Whereas in Singapore, the model then was just teaching studios. So the studios would teach, and then in their off hours, they will open up the studio for students to practice. So there was no dedicated space for just people to come in and dance on their own. Yeah, so seeing that, hey, there's a model overseas that works. Why don't I try it in Singapore? And that's when I decided during the pandemic to open a pole studio.
That takes a lot of guts.
Yeah.
For you to do that. So I guess thank you so much for sharing your story with us. Also, thank you so much, for being so honest and candid about your entire journey. I appreciate it a lot. I'm sure the audience do as well. So let me share my screen back. Angela has kindly share a 10% promo code with our audience. Should you guys be interested in pole dancing, inquire for private small group classes. So thank you, Angela, once again. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me. It was a joy to share this with you all.
Thank you. Thank you. Moving forward, so I guess we've come to the end of our webinar today. For those who are interested to try our UOBAM app, please just use your mobile phone and scan the QR code displayed, or you can visit the link attached in the chat box to download the app. Or you can simply just go to App Store or Google Play, key in UOBAM Invest, you'll be able to see us. Setting up an account is simple and fast, especially if you have a SingPass My Info. There is no sales charge, and the minimum amount to start your journey with us is just $1. For our fellow UOB colleagues in the house, you're not required to go through any pre-trade clearance, so yay. Lastly, before we end, we'd like to share with you our Refer a Friend campaign ending on 31st March. Refer a friend and receive $50 with a minimum investment of $500 from your friend. So simply just log into our UOB AM Invest app, tap on more at the bottom of the screen, scroll on to rewards, and from there you can see a referral link. You can send it to your friends by email, SMS, and channels. Your friend must make a minimum investment sum of $500 to his account by 31st of March. You receive $50 and your friend will receive a $25 credit. So thank you everyone again for joining us this afternoon. I hope you walk away feeling a little bit inspired, be it to start your own entrepreneur journey or pursuing that passion of yours or start an investing journey with us. Either way, I hope you have a great time today because I did. Thank you.